You've tried budgeting apps, you've made payment plans, you've even sworn off spending completely for weeks at a time, and yet somehow the debt keeps growing, or maybe it shrinks for a while, only to creep back up again when life happens. If this sounds familiar, you're not broken, you're not bad with money, and you're definitely not alone. What I've learned after years of working with people around money is this debt isn't just about numbers on a statement. It's about an emotional pattern that lives in your body, in your nervous system, and in the stories you tell yourself about what you deserve. And until we address that pattern, the numbers will keep reflecting the inner landscape of fear, shame, and scarcity. The truth is, most of us were never taught how to have a healthy relationship with money. We learned by watching our parents stress about bills, or maybe we grew up hearing that money was the root of all evil, or that good people don't care about material things. These early messages create deep neural pathways that influence every financial decision we make as adults, often without our conscious awareness. If you're choosing courage over shame today, you might write courage when you feel ready. Here's what most financial advice misses. Your relationship with debt mirrors your relationship with yourself. When you spend money you don't have, you're often trying to fill an emotional void. When you avoid looking at your statements, you're avoiding feeling your worth. When you promise yourself you'll do better tomorrow, you're treating your future self the same way you treat your current self, with conditional love. I've seen this pattern countless times. Someone gets serious about paying off debt. They make a strict plan, they follow it perfectly for a month, maybe 2. Then life throws them a curveball, a car repair, a family emergency, or just plain exhaustion from being so rigid. They break their own rules, feel terrible about themselves, and the shame spiral begins again. But here's what I want you to understand. The fact that you keep trying shows how much you care about your well-being. The fact that you feel bad when you overspend shows that you have values and standards for yourself. These aren't character flaws, they're signs of someone who wants to live with integrity. The debt isn't the problem. The debt is the symptom. The problem is the deep, often unconscious belief that you have to earn your right to feel good, to have nice things, or to be taken care of. And paradoxically, this belief creates the very behaviors that keep you stuck. Think about it. When you don't feel inherently worthy of good things, you either deprive yourself completely, which eventually leads to rebellious overspending, or you try to prove your worth through accumulating things you can't afford. Both responses come from the same wound, the belief that you're not enough as you are. Notice what happens in your body when you think about your debt right now. Do your shoulders tense? Does your chest feel tight? Maybe there's a sinking feeling in your stomach, or your breathing becomes shallow. This isn't just anxiety. This is your nervous system responding to perceived threat. Your body doesn't distinguish between a hungry lion and a credit card statement. When you're in debt, you're often in a chronic state of fight or flight, which makes it nearly impossible to make clear, calm decisions about money. You're either avoiding the problem entirely, which keeps you disconnected from reality, or making impulsive financial choices to feel better immediately, which provides temporary relief but creates long-term stress. When your nervous system is activated around money, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for planning and rational decision-making, goes offline. This is why you can know exactly what you should do about your debt, but find yourself unable to do it consistently. You're literally not operating from your full brain capacity. There is nothing wrong with you. Your nervous system is doing exactly what it's designed to do, trying to keep you safe. But safety for your nervous system often means avoiding discomfort, even when that avoidance creates bigger problems later. This is where we need to get curious rather than critical. What if your spending patterns are actually an attempt at self-care? What if your avoidance of financial planning is actually your psyche trying to protect you from feeling overwhelmed? What if your debt is a misguided but understandable attempt to take care of yourself when you didn't know how else to do it? Let's look at the shadow side first. Often debt becomes a way to punish ourselves for not being good enough yet. It's self-sabotage disguised as self-care. I'll treat myself now and pay for it later becomes a way of keeping yourself small, keeping yourself struggling, because some part of you believes you don't deserve ease. There's also what I call the worthiness trap. You might find yourself thinking, I'll pay off this debt and then I'll deserve to feel good about myself. But this creates a terrible bind, because if your self-worth depends on being debt-free, then every setback becomes evidence that you're fundamentally flawed. The shadow also includes the stories we tell ourselves about what having debt means about us. If I were responsible, I wouldn't be in this situation. Smart people don't get into debt. I'm just bad with money. These stories aren't facts, they're interpretations, and they're usually much harsher than anything you'd say to a friend in the same situation. But there's also the gift hidden in this pattern. Debt often shows up when you're ready to learn about boundaries, self-worth, and conscious choice. Every time you face a financial decision, you have an opportunity to ask, am I choosing this from love or from fear? Am I trying to fix how I feel about myself, or am I honoring what I truly need? Your debt can become your teacher. It can show you where you've been trying to meet emotional needs through material means. It can help you develop the muscle of delayed gratification and conscious choice. It can even help you discover what you truly value when you can't buy your way out of discomfort. If this feels like a different way of looking at your situation, you might write shift. The path out of debt isn't about willpower or perfect budgets. It's about healing the emotional pattern that created the debt in the first place. Here are gentle practices that address both the practical and the emotional aspects of your relationship with money. First, create a daily money check-in ritual. Every morning before you look at your phone or check your accounts, place your hand on your heart and take 3 deep breaths. Ask yourself, how do I want to feel about money today? This isn't about forcing positivity, it's about conscious intention. You might want to feel curious or peaceful or simply willing to learn. Second, practice the pause before spending. When you feel the urge to buy something you don't truly need, pause and breathe. Notice what emotion you're trying to soothe. Are you tired? Lonely? Overwhelmed? Excited? Name the feeling without judgment. Then ask, what would actually help me feel better right now? Sometimes the answer is still the purchase, but now it's a conscious choice rather than a compulsive reaction. Third, reframe your debt statements as data, not judgment. Instead of seeing them as evidence of your failure, see them as information. Each line item tells a story about what you were seeking: comfort, connection, security, or joy. Thank your past self for trying to meet your needs. Then gently choose a different way forward. You might write, I pause, if you're practicing this conscious choice. Fourth, start a worthiness journal. Every night, write down 3 things you did that day that showed you're worthy of good things, not because of what you accomplished, but because of who you are. Maybe you were kind to a stranger, or you listened to a friend, or you took a moment to appreciate something beautiful. This slowly rewires the belief that you must earn love and care. Fifth, practice conscious spending. Before any purchase, ask, does this align with who I'm becoming? This isn't about deprivation, it's about choice. When you spend money consciously, even small purchases feel empowering rather than shameful. You're training yourself to make decisions from your values rather than your impulses. 6. Create a forgiveness ritual for financial mistakes. When you overspend or make a choice you regret, place your hand on your heart and say, I forgive you for being human. I'm learning to make choices from love. Self-compassion is more powerful than self-punishment because it keeps you connected to your values instead of spiraling into shame. 7th, establish one small achievable money goal each week. It might be checking your account balance without judging yourself, or putting $5 toward debt, or simply noticing your spending patterns without trying to change them yet. Small, consistent actions build trust with yourself and create momentum without overwhelm. If you try these practices this week, you might come back and simply write practicing. Remember, this process isn't about becoming perfect with money overnight. It's about developing a kinder, more conscious relationship with yourself and your resources. Every time you choose awareness over avoidance or self-compassion over self-criticism, you're rewiring the patterns that created the debt in the first place. The most important thing to understand is this: you're not healing your debt, you're healing your relationship with yourself. Money is simply energy, and when you feel worthy of ease and abundance, money flows more naturally. When you stop using debt as a way to punish yourself, you naturally make choices that support your well-being. You don't need to be perfect with money to be worthy of financial peace. You don't need to have it all figured out to start treating yourself with kindness. Every gentle choice you make toward yourself is a step toward freedom. Your debt doesn't define your worth. Your past financial mistakes don't determine your future. You are learning, you are growing, and you are worthy of a life that feels abundant in all the ways that matter. And that worthiness isn't something you earn, it's something you are. I want you to know that healing your relationship with money is one of the most profound gifts you can give yourself. When you stop using financial stress as a way to stay small, when you stop letting debt shame keep you from dreaming, when you start making choices from love instead of fear, everything begins to shift. You may find that as you heal these patterns, other areas flourish too. Relationships become more honest because you're not hiding from yourself. Work becomes more fulfilling because you're making choices from clarity rather than desperation. Your body relaxes because it's not constantly braced for financial catastrophe. This is deep work, and it deserves patience and gentleness. Some days you'll make conscious choices and feel proud of your progress. Other days you'll fall back into old patterns and wonder if you're making any progress at all. Both experiences are part of the journey. What matters most is that you keep coming back to kindness. Keep coming back to curiosity instead of criticism. Keep coming back to the truth that you are worthy of ease, abundance, and peace, regardless of what your bank account says. Your debt story doesn't end with shame. It ends with wisdom, compassion, and knowing you can create the life you want.